Hi, and welcome to this AI in C# video on the Microsoft Agent Framework. Today we're going to take a quick revisit of structured output, as my recording I did like 4 months ago have changed in what the capabilities of Agent Framework is. So it's a bit out of date, so let's take a quick look. But first, a little summary on why we need structured output and what is the pain. Because if you have a question like this to an LLM, what is the top 10 movies according to IMDb, you get, example, an answer like this, where it gives a little disclaimer about having a cutoff date, then it gives the list, and then it gives some extra data down here. But if you ask it again, you might end up with a slightly different format. In this case, it's bolded the titles. Or if you ask again, you might even end up saying, I'm out of date, you should go to IMDb yourself and check the messages. It could come back in a different format here where we actually get the ratings. Or it can come back in a completely different format, in this case where there is a director as well. So if we were to make a website showing those 10 movies, we would say that need to parse all this text, and we couldn't really do that. We could try to do instructions to say, I need to include this, this, and this, and it should be in this and this format. But that's what we have structured output for. So the solution is, instead of just taking agent.runAsync, to use an agent.runAsync of that type of object we want to do. In this case, a movie, where we have a title, a year of release, a director, a movie genre, and an IMDb score. So we can have an object here instead, and when we then run it, we will get it back as in this case a JSON, but we can have an internal directed here that is deserialized, so we get the movies back directly. So this we could do almost from the start of Agent Framework, but there was certain limitations, because structured output done right needs to be supported. It was. It needs to be easy. It needs to have this run async to do it. It needs to work everywhere. And it needs to support list and arrays. And in the old days of this, we didn't support that, or it didn't support that. So if we have a look here, I have samples on structured output down here, and pre-release. In the very early days, we needed to do something like this, where we needed to make a JSON serializer, then tell the agent that it like normal, but then we needed to go into chat options and set something called a response format. And once we had that, we could manually deserialize the data, giving the JSON in here on the text property. But as we just saw here, now it's much more simpler in that we can do run async and just put in the object. So what happens between initial release and the release candidate was that in the beginning we could do this, but we needed to use this response format. So we had the supported checkmark, but none of the others. It was not easy to use. It didn't work everywhere, or actually it did, but it didn't allow objects. So if we look in code here, we can see we needed something called a movie result, and then have the object either a list or array underneath, else it wouldn't work. This is actually a limitation of OpenAI, but the underlying agent framework couldn't understand it either. So quickly they found out that it was a good thing to get it more easy, and they added support, them being Agent Framework team, of run async of T. But it only worked for the chat client and not for the basic AI agent, which is the core agent of that all other agents spawn from. So we could definitely use it, but the second we, for example, added tool calling middleware, we needed to be an AI agent, and then structured output stopped working. So it was actually nice until it totally broke. So if you really wanted to work, you still needed to go back to the original response format. And at that time, I made a few issues about this, saying, can this really be true? And they said, yes, this is how we want to do it. And for that reason, I ended up, among other things, to make my own NuGet packages called Agent Framework Toolkit. They can add agents and other niceties on top of Agent Framework. But among other things, I went in and said, okay, we need the support of AI agents for run async. So I built some extension methods so that could be possible. I still couldn't figure out how to do list and array support at that point, but later on in January, I found a way to do that as well. So we actually got all 4 check marks of being easy, supported, works everywhere, and allowed the objects. And apparently, based on that, the Agent Framework team listened and actually also went in and did exactly the same thing. So they added it to the AI agent as part of the release candidate, and release candidate 2 is the one that actually works. There was a bug in release candidate 1, but release candidate 2 finally got it right, and we have all the check marks we need to do structured output. So now, whenever we need something, we can use list of things, which we couldn't in the past, array of things, we can even use string, integer, and so on, which was also not supported. And we just need run async, because no matter if it's an AI agent, a chat client agent, whatever kind of agent, we have the run async on it. So now structured output is very easy compared to being very, very cumbersome and very, very buggy in the beginning. And this is really, really nice. Structured output in general is one of my favorite ways of using agents, because I use it all the time. It's like 90% of all my work happens with structured output. So I'm really, really happy that the team listened and actually took the time to make this possible, so we don't need to use the old cumbersome ways. So that's the revisit. New code is in the sample repo if you want to see, but again, it is that simple now, and that's so nice to have. So with that, thank you, and see you in the next one.